only echoing the phrase 3 million over and over again. Fine then, academicianly. I shall not disturb you any further. Xiaohua leaves, somewhat dejected. The moment Xiaohua departs, Pei Su beams at Li Yong. I know what you were planning. Li Yong responds thoughtfully. If you possess that technology, then by all means, pursue it. I cannot earn that money, but if you can, then your funds for the model will be secured. Pei Su smiles. Do you not believe I can create a scale model? Li Yong shrugged. If you can actually pull it off, I'll give you my savings of 356,800 yuan as pocket money. Clearly, Li Yong did not believe for a moment that Pei Su could modify a car. In the entire country, there was no one with such capability. Transforming a Ferrari into a vehicle with defensive capabilities comparable to a fourth-generation military vehicle? That was utterly impossible. Moreover, it needed to retain the ability for low-altitude flight while ensuring its defensive features. Li Yong was a million times skeptical. It was a joke. If his nephew could truly achieve that, he would start to question whether his nephew was still human. Such technological prowess was beyond the reach of humanity. Chapter 19. Rising to new heights. Pei Su simply smiled at Li Yong's words, saying nothing. After all, the notion itself was rather astonishing. To convert a Ferrari into a military-grade defensive vehicle of the fourth generation? This was as unrealistic as transforming a fire-breathing dragon into Optimus Prime. Speaking of which, if a supercar truly possessed such formidable defensive capabilities, what would it be called? A defensive supercar? This thought flashed through Pei Su's mind. Stepping out of the office, he called out to Xiaohua, who was not far ahead. Friend, wait a moment. Xiaohua turned around. It was only then that Pei Su noticed the badge adorning the young man's chest. It was none other than the emblem of Lonka University's genius class. Seeing this, Pei Su couldn't help but smile. Hello, fellow student. Fellow student? Xiaohua was somewhat puzzled. However, upon seeing Pei Su produce his own Lonkai medal, he was taken aback. You must be Pei Su, right? Pei Su paused for a moment, then nodded affirmatively. That's me. Xiaohua suddenly became exuberant. I know you. The one who wrote about the 8th-generation fighter in the college entrance examination essay. Pei Su stood there in astonishment. Wasn't this supposed to be a top-secret matter? How did Xiaohua know? Xiaohua chuckled. Of course, it is indeed a confidential incident. However, confidentiality is relative. Something is kept secret precisely because only a few are aware of its contents and recognize that it should not be widely known. Those who wish to know, if they have connections with the grading committee, will be informed. If they have ties to Lonka University, they will also know. Naturally, I learned about it through my connections with the grading committee. As he spoke, Xiaohua formally introduced himself. I am Xiaohua, also from Wuzhou. I remember you. You were in class 2 while I was in the elite class. I have a relative in the grading committee. I received a score of 55 on my essay. But he told me that there was someone whose score exceeded mine. I was very curious to find out who could achieve a perfect score of 60 despite the reforms in this year's essay grading. Thus, after the results were announced and the examination papers were no longer confidential, I went to the grading committee to review your original paper. As he continued, admiration appeared on his face. I must say, your perspective is quite bold, and your reasoning is quite sound. From my viewpoint, you are an extraordinarily remarkable individual. Upon hearing this, Pei Su was no longer in shock and retorted, in what way am I remarkable? Xiaohua pondered for a moment, pointing to himself. Based on my experience, your performance resembles that of Cao Cao, one of the warlords who rose to prominence in chaotic times. Pei Su inquired with a smile. If I am Cao Cao, then who are you? Xiaohua blinked. I am Qin Gong, my lord. Pei Su was momentarily taken aback. Cao Cao. Qin Gong. This person's thought process was truly intriguing. However, he began to understand the words of old Qin. Only the peculiar geniuses of the genius class could grasp his thoughts, just as he now comprehended Xiaohua's expressions. With that realization, Pei Su wasted no more time. I can help you modify the car. I can fulfill all your requirements. Xiaohua was momentarily stunned, then his excitement surged. Really? You are indeed Cao Cao. I am truly Qin Gong. Historically, Qin Gong was a key aide to Cao Cao, one of the earliest supporters. What a marvelous twist of fate. My requirements are simple. First, the car must be able to fly. Second, it needs to have the defensive capabilities of a fourth-generation military vehicle. Third, every part of the Ferrari must possess bulletproof features. Fourth, I need this car to reach a speed faster than ordinary supercars. As he spoke, Xiaohua winked at Pei Su. Not too difficult, right? Pei Su nodded. No. It is not difficult. Xiaohua was momentarily taken aback. Really not difficult? He genuinely believed it was quite challenging. The need to modify the car stemmed from his own affliction, a syndrome of lacking a sense of safety. This condition instilled a constant feeling of unease, especially in enclosed spaces. Thus, the vintage yellow Ferrari from 11 years ago needed to possess adequate defensive capabilities. To achieve this, Xiaohua had practically exhausted all his connections, even reaching out to Li Yong. Yet, even Li Yong claimed he couldn't manage it. Could Pei Su truly accomplish it? This thought filled Xiaohua with unrestrained joy. Do you believe in me? Pei Su looked at Xiaohua and smiled. Absolutely. Xiaohua responded without hesitation. Since you took the initiative to reach out to me, I should trust you completely. All right. Pei Su took the car keys and approached the Ferrari, examining it closely. The vintage yellow Ferrari, the 2011 model, what a relic. Nearly as old as Pei Su himself. Logically, it was a miracle it could still run. Yet for Pei Su, he knew it could be modified. With the car transformed, he could earn money and create the 8th-generation fighter. Pei Su declared, on the first day of school, I will drive the car over to find you. Xiaohua grinned. Alright, I understand. After exchanging phone numbers, Xiaohua requested Pei Su's bank account number before turning to leave. In the evening, as Pei Su drove the vintage Ferrari and secured a venue for modifications for a month at the cost of 5,000 yuan, his phone pinged with an alert. To his astonishment, Xiaohua truly trusted him completely. Not long after leaving, 5 million yuan was transferred to Pei Su's bank account, accompanied by a message stating, "This is 5 million yuan. Logically, I have reserved 2 million for materials, but if you can find a way to save this amount, you need not return it to me, brother Pei." Upon reading this message, Pei Su smiled knowingly. He donned his work uniform and mask. Next, it was time to modify the car. The defensive capabilities of a 4th-generation military vehicle, he possessed the technology of the 5th generation. In the office of Lonka University, Jiang Mingtang was engrossed in his work. As the president of Lonka University, he was somewhat of a veteran in the field. By this stage in his career and age, he should have started to gradually withdraw, just like old Qin. Yet, he still chose to personally oversee many projects requiring his involvement. Across from him sat a middle-aged man in military uniform, cheerfully sipping tea. Old Jiang. It seems we haven't seen each other in years, the man remarked. Jiang Mingtang cast a sidelong glance at Chu Jinhua. Your father and I were comrades of the same generation. Now you dare to call me Old Jiang? The man sipping tea at the opposite table was none other than Major General Chu. Chapter 20. Surviving the bombardment of anti-tank shells? Jiang Mingtang's table. Major General Chu chuckled. Who are we kidding? This project is spearheaded by the bigwigs of the military district, aiming to collaborate with the Dragon Institute. In terms of work relations, aren't we colleagues? With a smile, Major General Chu ceased his jesting and leaned in to ask, by the way, Old Jiang, who do you intend to assign to oversee the 5th-generation defensive military vehicle project? Jiang Mingtang replied indifferently, you'll find out soon enough. Just as he finished speaking, there was a knock at the office door. Come in, Jiang Mingtang said casually. The door swung open, and Li Yong entered. Old Jiang, what do you need? As soon as he spoke, Major General Chu stood up in shock. It's you? Li Yong was equally astonished. It's you? Jiang Mingtang observed their surprise with amusement. What is going on? Do you two know each other? Well, sort of, Li Yong said awkwardly. The truth was, back in early June, during his nephew's college entrance exam, a comical incident had occurred involving this young major general who had been sprinting down the street while embracing his nephew. It was hard for him to harbor any positive impressions of the young officer. Oh yes, we're quite familiar, Major General Chu said with a grin, extending his hand. Old Li, from now on, we'll be colleagues. Li Yong, still a bit confused, looked over at Jiang Mingtang. The project for the 5th-generation defensive military vehicle had been finalized. Jiang Mingtang simply stated, it's been settled. Is it? Li Yong frowned. I'm currently tied up with the 7th-generation aircraft project, and I can't spare the time. Really? Jiang Mingtang smiled. Didn't your remarkable nephew already devise a plan for the 8th-generation aircraft? The 7th generation? What is that worth? Once the 8th-generation project is established, we can have your nephew come to the Dragon Institute with you and the other academicians for research, can't we? Li Yong wanted to say more, but Jiang Mingtang waved his hand. Alright, that's enough. This project is critical. The military has agreed to provide 150 million in funding. With the first 30 million deposit already transferred to the account, their only requirement is for us to swiftly develop the 5th-generation defensive military vehicle within 2 months. Li Yong sighed. 2 months? How is that even possible? He was beginning to share Wang Jiang's pessimistic outlook on the project. Let us put in the effort. And even if it doesn't work out, we must demonstrate our commitment, Jiang Mingtang encouraged, patting Li Yong on the shoulder. Major General Chu, with a solemn expression, placed his arm around Li Yong's shoulder. The 5th-generation defensive military vehicle was necessary due to the obsolescence of the 4th-generation military vehicles across various military districts. A replacement was needed for the stationed equipment. September marked both the start of the school year for exam takers and the time for military districts to replace their equipment. Old Li, we're counting on you at the Dragon Institute. Major General Chu insisted. After all, I can hardly think of anyone else who could accomplish such a Herculean task in just 2 months. Time swiftly passed. The days flew by, and before long, it was late August. In the workshop, Pei Su was inspecting an old Ferrari, checking it meticulously. He tightened screws, ensuring that every component was intact and every function was operational. Externally, the vintage Ferrari appeared unchanged, yet in reality, Pei Su had procured bulletproof glass and tires, along with a series of ballistic products, effectively fortifying the vehicle. Concurrently, 2 H100 computing cards were assembled to form a local AI server for analyzing road conditions. The engine had undergone explosive modifications. After a private aerospace research institute in the Northwest went bankrupt, a decommissioned rocket was auctioned off. Pei Su invested 450,000 to acquire the abandoned rocket engine. By miniaturizing the rocket engine technology, he successfully fitted it into the Ferrari's minuscule engine compartment. This rocket engine operated on aerospace fuel. Additionally, the original engine was replaced with a smaller electric vehicle battery, employing a hybrid fuel and electricity model. Consequently, when utilizing the rocket engine, this Ferrari could unleash speeds nearing 500 kilometers per hour, while in regular use, it would rely solely on the battery. Most importantly, the defensive capabilities of the fifth-generation military vehicle were paramount. After all, what did a proper military vehicle look like? It featured several millimeters of steel plating as a base, layered with shock absorbers, buffers, and various materials, ultimately encased in thick armor. Visually, it resembled a compact tank. However, Pei-Su had mastered a simplified technology for the fifth-generation military vehicle. The ultimate shock absorption was achieved through a layer of carbon fiber panels enveloped in non-Newtonian fluid, replacing the original chassis of the Ferrari. While standard carbon fiber panels possessed high strength, they fell short of the fifth-generation military vehicle standards. The non-Newtonian fluid could provide exceptional cushioning and shock absorption. However, when combined, significant issues arose, as the high strength of the carbon fiber panels would amplify the hardness of the non-Newtonian fluid upon impact, potentially damaging the vehicle. To address this, Pei-Su employed the principle of incompressibility of air, integrating a mechanical device within the carbon fiber layer. When this layer, wrapped in non-Newtonian fluid, endured a powerful impact, the mechanical device would automatically trigger, creating an opening in the carbon fiber panel. The instant the hole opened, pressure would force air to rush outwards. This mechanism allowed the vehicle to achieve perfect shock absorption and cushioning, endowing it with the defensive capabilities of a fifth-generation military vehicle, capable of withstanding direct hits from tank shells without succumbing. The trade-off was that each time the mechanical device activated under extreme impact, it would forcibly expel some of the non-Newtonian fluid. It was estimated to withstand 3 ordinary tank shell side impacts or 1 frontal impact from a tank shell. Nonetheless, this was considered standard performance for a fifth-generation defensive military vehicle. Pei-Su had successfully realized this. Lastly, the most crucial feature was the low-altitude flight capability. Achieving low-altitude flight was also a formidable challenge. After integrating the carbon fiber panels and non-Newtonian fluid, along with the 2 H100-powered miniaturized AI local servers, the Ferrari appeared unchanged externally, yet its weight had significantly increased. However, Pei-Su had devised a solution to allow the considerably heavier vintage yellow Ferrari to soar into the skies. Chapter 21. The technical prowess of an 18-year-old to make this considerably heavier vintage yellow Ferrari take flight. We first need to focus on a key aspect, the rocket engine, which runs on aerospace fuel. If a rocket can ascend, why can't a sports car? The reason lies in the design of the car itself, which does not permit it to emit a long, fiery tail. Imagine being stuck in a severe traffic jam, with a long line of vehicles ahead and behind. At that moment, you press the launch button. Your automobile ignites like a rocket taking flight, unleashing a terrifying plume of flames from its undercarriage. As the asphalt melts beneath it, the vehicle ascends slowly into the air, soaring forward. Due to its low altitude, you effectively incinerate all the cars in your path with the elongated flame trail, causing their drivers to faint from the heat. Consequently, you will soon find yourself facing charges of manslaughter and destruction of public property. This illustrates the daunting challenge of achieving low-altitude flight in an automobile. Is it possible, akin to a helicopter, to leverage substantial kinetic energy to elevate a Ferrari into the sky? This is the crux of Pei-Su's endeavor to make this vintage yellow Ferrari airborne. He amalgamated the principles of rocket technology with those of helicopter mechanics, installing 16 turbofans beneath the Ferrari. Upon pressing the launch button, the car's internal chemical fuel is converted into kinetic energy, enabling it to ascend vertically. Given that the rocket engine has been miniaturized and its power significantly compressed, the flame trail, although reaching a staggering temperature of 2,500 degrees Celsius, does not extend the several dozen meters typical of a genuine rocket. When the Ferrari, powered by the turbofans, reaches an altitude of 15 to 20 meters, the flame trail emitted by the miniaturized rocket engine poses no danger to those on the ground. With the issue of the rocket's harmful flame trail resolved, this vintage Ferrari successfully achieves low-altitude flight. Thus, the transformation of this classic yellow Ferrari is complete, and all of Xiaohua's demands have been met. Firstly, it possesses exaggerated defensive capabilities without altering its exterior, surpassing even the requirements of the fourth generation. Secondly, when utilizing the rocket engine, this Ferrari can attain a maximum speed of 499 kilometers per hour, exceeding the speed of the world's fastest supercar, a Bugatti test vehicle, which reaches 490 kilometers per hour by neglecting safety and performance considerations. Remarkably, this Ferrari, enhanced with formidable defensive features, outpaces the fastest supercar by 9 kilometers per hour. As for conventional military-grade armored vehicles, their maximum speed is capped at 100 kilometers per hour, 499 times less than that of the fourth generation. Thirdly, and most importantly, this order worth 5 million will only cost 990,000, allowing Pei-Su to pocket a staggering 4 million. The prospect of such wealth fills Pei Su with unbridled joy. For million is ample to craft a model of the 8th generation. If necessary, he can seek assistance from his uncle to reclaim his savings of over 300,000. For one must honor their bets. While reveling in thoughts of the future, Pei Su suddenly turns and notices a middle-aged man in work attire, gazing blankly at him as if he has been there for some time. It is the factory manager. Pei Su hurriedly stands up, recalling that he had only paid the venue fee for the first month, and now it is already the second month. In his fervor, he had completely overlooked this trivial matter. He quickly retrieves cash to hand to the manager, but Director Yao unexpectedly returns the money to him, speaking with utmost sincerity. Even a hint of reverence. Young Pei, would you consider working for me? Reflecting on Pei Su's remarkable performance over the past 2 months since late June, Director Yao is filled with excitement. He recognizes Pei Su as a rare genius in automotive modification. No, a once-in-a-billion talent. Although Pei Su often prefers not to allow others to observe his work, Director Yao has nonetheless keenly perceived his extraordinary abilities. Come work in my factory. Even if just nominally, I will pay you 50,000 a month. Director Yao exclaims, having never encountered such a prodigy before. The technical prowess displayed by Pei Su is simply extraordinary. Pei Su smiles and politely declines, saying, thank you for providing the space and tools. But I still need to attend school, and simply do not have the time to work for you. Director Yao is taken aback. You are still a student? Pei Su nods. Yes, I just turned 18 in July. The weight of those words, 18, resonates deeply within Director Yao's mind. He is momentarily dazed. 18 years old. And possessing such skill, could this be the legendary gift of talent? He started this factory out of a passion for automobiles and the financial backing of his family's business. Director Yao has witnessed many automotive geniuses, but none quite like Pei Su. In that moment, he feels a mix of awe and regret at the prospect of not being able to recruit such a kindred spirit. Yet, he quickly reconciles himself to the idea that if Pei Su were 50, he would be a renowned automotive master, and at 30, a legendary figure in the industry. But at 18, he is beyond the reach of someone like Director Yao. With such talent, it is likely that the state will eventually seek him out. With this thought, Director Yao exhales with a smile and hands Pei Su a cigarette. Consider this a token of our acquaintance. You need not pay me for this month. Consider it your tuition. Although I only caught a glimpse of your work, each step you took has profoundly inspired my entire career. After nearly 20 years in this field, I realize how shallow my understanding has been. As Pei Su gestures to decline the cigarette, Director Yao places it behind his ear and smiles. Then, I wish you a future filled with grand achievements, Pei Su. Pei Su nods with a smile, and soon after, the roar of the Ferrari's engine fades into the distance. Although he has replaced the motor, Pei Su, who adores the sound of internal combustion engines, records the engine's roar into the AI to replace the sound produced by the electric motor. With a thunderous roar, the Ferrari speeds away from the modification shop. Director Yao watches the yellow silhouette disappear, taking a cigarette from behind his ear, lighting it, and inhaling deeply. He muses, truly, heroes emerge in youth. The image of the young man will forever be etched in Director Yao's memory. Chapter 22. Worry in the office of the Lonka Institute. Smoke swirls around. Li Yong rests his hands on the desk, massaging his temples. He lights a cigarette, while across from him, Major General Chu, also smoking, wears a troubled expression. After 2 months of interaction, they have grown more familiar, and the previous awkwardness stemming from the incident where Chu forcibly took Pei Su has diminished considerably. Yet now, both are beset by worry. How on earth do they create this damned 5th-generation military-grade armored vehicle? Li Yong, filled with frustration, exclaims. With drones so powerful that they can flip tanks, what's the point of struggling to build this thing? Major General Chu replies quietly, Oldly, while I agree with you. From my perspective, every September marks a major equipment overhaul for the military region. The defensive military vehicle plays a significant role. On one hand, it can be positioned at close range to observe the devastating effects of weapons of mass destruction. On the other hand, unlike a tank, it lacks the weightiness of traditional armored vehicles while possessing comparable defensive capabilities. It can be said that the defensive military vehicle is an undisclosed entity. One would find no information about it online, yet it undeniably exists. Its inception dates back to the era of nuclear weapons. Prior to the signing of the Nuclear Test Ban Treaty, our predecessors conducted numerous nuclear tests, not merely for the sake of experimentation, but to instill a sense of courage among the nation. However, the repeated failures necessitated the development of a means for close observation. During a nuclear test, the immense electromagnetic and shock waves would obliterate any camera in an instant. To address the electromagnetic interference, the concept of the Faraday cage was proposed. Yet, relying solely on a Faraday cage would prove futile, as the overwhelming shock waves at the moment of detonation would still annihilate all recording devices. Thus, after careful consideration, the defensive military vehicle was born. It remains absent from historical records, its creation solely driven by the need for a close observation apparatus during nuclear tests. However, it was later discovered that this Faraday cage observation vehicle possessed remarkable performance. Military districts are typically established in rugged terrains, and the observation vehicle excels in off-road capabilities while gradually leveling the surface beneath its weight. In the past, security concerns within military districts had remained unresolved. Yet utilizing military vehicles for transportation mitigated potential risks. Serendipitously, the defensive military vehicle became a staple within military districts. Presently, in September, as military districts undergo significant equipment upgrades, two individuals sit in their office, troubled and smoking. The cause of their distress? The inability to produce the required vehicles. Shortly thereafter, a high-ranking official arrives. Major General Chu glances at Li Yong and inquires, "Do you know which military districts require this project?" Li Yong, puzzled, responds, "What do you mean?" Major General Chu holds up two fingers, Kyoto and Modu, the two top military districts. "I can manage Kyoto since I am familiar with their leadership. But Modu may prove challenging." He sighs, "In the past 2 months, we have mobilized significant manpower and resources, yet we have only managed to produce a few prototypes. Even the most advanced T-401 can only be considered a fourth-and-a-half-generation vehicle, falling short of the standards for a fifth-generation defensive military vehicle." Li Yong remains silent. The T-401 is the finest defensive military vehicle they have developed in the past 2 months, boasting exceptional defensive capabilities. They have achieved breakthroughs unattainable by fourth-generation vehicles. The name T-401 signifies its origins. The letter T represents the 20th position in the alphabet, indicating that their initial design has reached its 20th iteration. The designation 401 signifies that this vehicle is the fourth prototype developed in this 20th iteration. Their efforts have been commendable. Over the past 2 months, Li Yong and Major General Chu have made countless trips between Lonka Institute and the Kyoto Military District, mobilizing at least 40 research experts and the full production capacity of 3 factories. The creation of 20 initial design versions and the birth of the T-401 serve as testimony to their unwavering dedication to the pursuit of a fifth-generation defensive military vehicle. During these 2 months, they have been nearly exhausted. Li Yong sighs. Just then, a knock sounds at the door. "Come in," he calls casually. The office door opens, and 2 middle-aged men walk in. Instantly, both Li Yong and Major General Chu become solemn. "Commander Zhao, Commander Qi." Major General Chu greets the 2 men with a nod. The newcomers are none other than Zhao Linghua, the commander of the Kyoto Military District, and Qi Tianyun, the commander of the Moda Military District. Zhao Linghua, a striking figure even in his 60s, exudes youthful vigor. He smiles and asks, "How is it?" "Over the past 2 months, we have provided full support. Tomorrow marks the start of the university semester and the military equipment overhaul. Is the 5th-generation defensive military vehicle ready?" Li Yong's expression turns troubled, and Major General Chu hesitates to respond. "What's wrong?" Qi Tianyun, showing signs of gray hair, furrows his brow as if sensing something amiss. Li Yong hesitates, but ultimately decides to speak candidly. "The timeline for this project is exceedingly tight. Even with all our efforts, achieving such a technological breakthrough in a short period is challenging. After all, the nature of honesty at this moment differs significantly from that of later disclosures." Faced with 2 top military leaders, Li Yong finds it difficult to fabricate an excuse. "What?" At the Lonka Institute, Pei Su, driving a vintage yellow Ferrari, expertly parks in the lot. After retrieving the keys and ascending the stairwell, he intends to share good news with his uncle. However, upon reaching Li Yong's office, he overhears the sound of an argument. The office door is ajar, and voices intermittently filter through. "Old Li, you are the country's foremost military designer. Adept in all domains, from fighter jets to low-pressure sonar detectors. Your contributions to the 4th-generation defensive military vehicle are well acknowledged. Both Zhao and I have great faith in your abilities, which is why we entrusted this significant project to you despite the pressing timeline. But how can I account for the absence of the 5th-generation defensive military vehicle?" An elderly voice resonates with a heightened tone. Chapter 23. Can this Ferrari withstand a tank-S bombardment? Pei Su stands outside the office door, peering inside. Another middle-aged man speaks gravely, "Indeed. The standard for the 5th-generation defensive military vehicle is that it must withstand a direct hit from a tank shell. Regardless, the military equipment overhaul must proceed. Old Li, the T-401 you showcased, while claimed to be a 4th-and-a-half-generation defensive military vehicle, will have to be treated as a pseudo-5th-generation vehicle under the current circumstances." Pei Su, through the slightly ajar door, observes the scene within. He realizes that the 2 unfamiliar middle-aged men hold high ranks, as indicated by the stars on their military uniforms. Are there 2 serving lieutenant generals in the Kyoto Military District? Pei Su is astonished. Typically, individuals of such rank would be leaders of military districts. He notices that the gray-haired officer speaks with a Moda dialect, while the other speaks standard Mandarin. It appears that the leaders of Modu and Kyoto military districts have convened. What a remarkable situation. Pei Su continues to observe. Nevertheless, the military equipment overhaul is imminent and cannot be halted. Zhao Linghua frowns slightly and states softly, "Tomorrow, you will go to the Kyoto Military District and test all the defensive military vehicles. I ask for nothing more than for the T-401 to withstand a single tank shell. If it can do so, this fifth-generation defensive military vehicle project will be deemed a success. As Zhao Lin and Qi Tianyun exchanged glances, they turned to leave. They opened the office door and cast a fleeting glance aside. There stood a young man by the window, seemingly engrossed in the scenery. Though it was rare to encounter such youthful faces at the Lonka Institute, the weight on their minds prevented them from dwelling on it, and they soon departed. Inside the office, Li Yong and Major General Chu exchanged solemn looks, both letting out heavy sighs. Ah, Li Yong murmured, "Old Chu. I believe we're both aware of a certain truth." Major General Chu nodded in agreement. In unison, they declared, "The defensive capabilities of the T-401 cannot withstand a single strike from a tank." After stating this, Li Yong added, "Not even from the retired Type 59. This meant that the T-401, which they had painstakingly developed, utterly failed to meet the defensive standards of a fifth-generation military vehicle. Currently, they faced a significant oversight, one that would surely mar their records. Damn it, Major General Chu gritted his teeth. That old Lin insisted I take charge. Is it necessary for the deputy commander to be in charge? He sighed heavily, given the tight timeline. Old Li, I don't blame you. Our efforts have only been visible to the two of us. Li Yong felt a surge of camaraderie towards Major General Chu. Indeed, their dedication over the past 2 months had been mutual. Major General Chu was responsible for mobilizing all resources from the military district and liaising with factories, while Li Yong led a research team, tirelessly conducting experiments, yet they still fell short. Although the T-401 had reached a level of 4.5 generations, it was still far from 5th-generation standards. It simply could not be done. As they lamented, Pei Su entered the office. "I have a solution," Pei Su declared earnestly. Major General Chu glanced at him and sighed. "Young man, I believe in your talent, but you're not your uncle, nor the second coming of an all-encompassing designer in the military industry. There's no feasible way." Li Yong nodded in agreement. Indeed, time is not on our side. They had never underestimated Pei Su. Both Major General Chu and Li Yong recognized his potential for greatness. However, they were acutely aware that time was slipping away, and they lacked the energy to pursue further endeavors. Tomorrow marked the day of a major equipment overhaul for the entire military. Could they truly conjure a 5th-generation vehicle out of thin air? Pei Su, observing their despondency, blinked and insisted, "I truly have a solution." Sensing a flicker of interest, Major General Chu urged, "Then tell me, what is your plan?" Pei Su produced a set of car keys and placed them gently on the table. "Uncle, do you remember 2 months ago when that fellow named Xiaohua came to discuss modifying a vehicle?" Li Yong struggled to recall Xiaohua, but, with Pei Su's prompt, began to remember. "Ah, wasn't he the one who wanted you to modify a Ferrari to achieve the defensive capabilities of a 4th-generation vehicle?" Li Yong questioned, puzzled. "But our project requires a 5th-generation vehicle." Pei Su nodded. "I know. I directly modified it into a 5th-generation vehicle. It's parked downstairs now." The office fell into stunned silence. "You transformed it into a 5th-generation vehicle? It's downstairs?" Li Yong and Major General Chu exchanged incredulous glances, their hearts momentarily halting at the weight of Pei Su's words. In the next breath, they dashed outside. Downstairs, they gazed at the Ferrari, which appeared unchanged. A cold wave of reality crashed over them, extinguishing the flicker of hope they had just felt. Li Yong let out a bitter laugh, not mocking others, but rather himself. How had he become so desperate? Had he forgotten the temperance he had cultivated? Upon hearing of a 5th-generation vehicle, he had rushed down without considering the consequences. Damn it. Major General Chu panted, pointing at the Ferrari and then looking at Pei Su. "You're saying this Ferrari has been modified into a 5th-generation vehicle?" Pei Su affirmed. Major General Chu chuckled self-deprecatingly and ruffled Pei Su's hair. "Young man, one need not offer consolation in such a manner. To ignite hope only to extinguish it will only lead to greater despair." Pei Su was bewildered. "But this is a 5th-generation vehicle. Can't you see the technological advancements in this car?" Li Yong sighed, choosing not to elaborate further as he turned to head back upstairs. Major General Chu followed, whispering, "Do you think we could hastily add a layer of composite steel plating to the T-401 to withstand a single strike?" "That is quite unlikely," they said as they prepared to leave. Pei Su called out urgently, "Remember to bring the Ferrari tomorrow. It truly possesses 5th-generation defensive capabilities." "Understood," came Major General Chu's response, though he remained skeptical that a Ferrari could withstand a tank's bombardment. So be it. The following day, Pei Su was set to attend classes at Lonka University, but suddenly recalled a pressing issue. This Ferrari was to be bombarded by a tank. What would happen to Xiaohua? Chapter 24. Uncle, I truly do not wish to die. Pei Su sat in a taxi, pondering for a long while. The Ferrari was destined for destruction, but what about Xiaohua? After deep contemplation, he quietly pulled out his phone and sent Xiaohua a message. "Brother, the depth of our friendship is akin to that of Chun Gong and Xiao Chao." Ding. Xiaohua replied with a question mark. Pei Su continued typing. Chun Gong was the first general of the Cao Cao group and represented Cao Cao's lifelong ideal. Historical records indicate that Chun Gong admired Cao Cao's style to such an extent that he willingly relinquished his position as a county magistrate, signifying that he was a person who did not sweat the small stuff and was willing to sacrifice much. Would you agree? Xiaohua paused before responding. Yes? But Pei Gu, what exactly are you trying to convey?